Chapter 17. I am the door of the sheepfold. John 10:7. We live in an age of tolerance. We are told that everyone needs to learn to accept and even approve of the beliefs of everyone else. Do we really believe that Jesus is the only way to God? Isn't that intolerant? Did we miss the memo? God is a loving God who is big enough to include everyone, isn't he? What did Jesus say about this question? When Jesus introduced himself as the door of the sheepfold, he was making an exclusive claim. He was confronting the Pharisees who were acting as if they were the doorkeepers of the synagogue. After they threw the blind man out, Jesus went and ministered to him. The blind man became a believer. John 9:34-38. With that as a context, let's read John 10:1-10. Jesus told a parable to the Pharisees, verses 1-6. A parable was a story that used something common to illustrate something unknown. Sheepfolds were a common sight in the area where Jesus ministered. They were often enclosed by stone walls. These walls were just tall enough to keep intruders out. There was a small opening in one part of the wall that was just big enough for a man to walk through. Jesus referred to this opening as the door of the sheepfold. In our way of thinking, there was no door, just an opening, but all the sheep had to go through this opening in order to get into the sheepfold for a safe place to rest at night, and out of the sheepfold for grazing during the day. A watchman would guard the sheepfold during the day, while the shepherd took his sheep out for a walk, and for grazing in some nearby pastures. The watchman's job was to ensure that nothing entered the sheepfold during the day that might hide there to harm or frighten the sheep when they returned. When the shepherd returned, the watchman's job was done. The shepherd would be the one to stay with the sheep for the night. He had a relationship with him. He knew them, and they knew him. He would stand, sit, or sleep in the opening of the sheepfold. His body became the door. No wild animal could have access to the sheep without climbing over the body of the shepherd. This was the way sheep were always protected. John used this familiar picture to make two significant claims. His first claim was, "The one who does not enter by the door is a thief." Verse 1. This is true of anyone who tried to use another way. This person may want to scare or harm the sheep. This person may want to steal or even destroy the sheep. One thing is for sure, this person does not respect the shepherd's property. His second claim was a mirror image of the first. The one who enters by the door is the shepherd, verses 2-5. He is the one who has the right to enter. Therefore, he is the one who uses the door. The watchman opens the door for him. The sheep listen to his voice. The shepherd calls the sheep by name. The shepherd leads his sheep to green pastures. The sheep will never follow a stranger. Jesus was using a figure of speech, verse 6. The Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Perhaps that was okay because they would not have liked what Jesus was saying. Jesus applied this parable to himself, verses 7-10. Consider his initial statement. Jesus said, "I am the door of the sheepfold." Verse 7. All who came before Jesus were thieves. Jesus was referring to the Pharisees. The Pharisees thought they were representing God, but they really were not. They were thieves who had invented their own religious rules. They added to the law of Moses and wanted people to follow their rules in order to be accepted by God. They came on the scene before Jesus, but they were thieves. They did not really care for the sheep or the people of Israel. The people saw through their charades. The sheep did not listen to the thieves, but they did listen to Jesus. Now that we know that Jesus is the door, let's review his opening statement. Anyone who does not enter through Jesus is a thief. Verse 1. There are many religious voices in our world today. Like the Pharisees of old, they have many ways that they want us to follow in order to be approved by God. None of these ways are valid. Jesus is the only legitimate way into God's sheepfold. There is no other legitimate way. Consider his additional statement. Jesus said, I am the door. Whoever enters through me will be saved. Jesus is the only one who died on the cross to pay the penalty for our sins. This may say that Jesus did not die on the cross, but his death is a fact of history. His death brings life to all who will believe in him. As soon as we believe in him, Jesus becomes our shepherd. He provides for our needs. We can come into the sheepfold for protection. Jesus protects us from the attack of the enemy and all of his workers. We can go out of the sheepfold to graze. Jesus gives us the freedom to follow him safely throughout life. He leads us and feeds us from his vast supply. Jesus made a contrast. The thief comes for a negative purpose. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. There are many religious leaders today who want your money. They want your loyalty, but they really do not care about you. On the other hand, the shepherd comes for a positive purpose. He comes to give abundant life. Following Jesus is the best way to live in this life and the only way to live in heaven forever with God. Jesus said, I am the door of the sheepfold. He is the only legitimate way into God's sheepfold. All other ways are illegitimate. Don't you think that this truth is important for everyone to know, even if it goes against our society's current way of thinking? What did Jesus claim? Jesus said, I am the door of the sheepfold. He is the entrance into God's fold.